Hello. I'm doing a walk along video, and it is a nice spring day here in Surrey, France. What I want to talk to you about mostly is about cultural differences, and not the cultural differences that you might see on other YouTube channels or on other YouTube videos, but the cultural differences specifically around communication and communication style beyond the language barriers. All right, so if you are new here, welcome. My name is Patricia Brooks. I am an American living in France and have been since 2018. And I help people who are ready to start the next chapters of their lives living and thriving in a foreign country. I help them to find that confidence and courage to make the leap and to help them to build the skills and habits that will allow them to thrive there more easily. And on this channel, I talk about my life in France, about moving abroad, and how to live the kind of life you know you deserve to. And today I'm going to be talking about cultural difference that doesn't always get spoken about, but it's one that is really important to understand. This weekend, I had an amazing Women Rising Roundtable. Becoming a Global Woman is what it was called. And it was about who do you need to become to thrive abroad. And we spoke mostly about mindset stuff, which is what I do as a coach. But we also talked about this cultural difference that I want to share with you right now. And it has to do with how certain countries communicate. You know, there are definitely tendencies for countries to communicate one way or another. And the two types of communication styles are based on low context and high context. If you are living in a country that communicates based on low context, like the United States, you're going to be more direct, more explicit in what you are saying. You're going to be detailed. You may be repetitive. You may check in saying, is that clear? But if you come from a high context country that communicates that way, then you might be experiencing, or you might communicate less directly. You may communicate in a way that others will have to read between the lines to know what you mean. And the difference between these countries is that there is the higher context countries has to do with the idea that they have been a society for very, very long times. So your countries in the Far East tend to be more high context. Japan is the highest high context country, and the U.S. is the lowest low context country. And the U.S. has not been around that long. And for that reason, we've had to be very clear, because different cultures have come together, and we've had to be very clear so that we can understand. And so that's kind of like the history behind that. But how does that show up? Well, you know, it could be something as confusing as not saying what you mean. I know that there are people who have gone to their visa appointments with all the documents that are on a list that is provided by the state, the French state, and they get to the window, and the person behind the window says, "Oh, but you're missing this document. Where's this document?" And they went, "What? That's not on the list." Well, regardless, we need this document, right? And I don't know if that is specifically based on this difference in communication style, but it seems like it very well could be. I think another way that I have seen this personally is in the idea that you are not going to necessarily get detailed instructions on what to do or what to do next. Maybe you're doing something with administration, or maybe you are looking for something. This happened for me when I was looking to repot a plant. So I went to the hardware store and they had all these pots. They had plastic pots that did not have holes in the bottom of them, drainage holes. And I was like, ugh. And this was right around the time where I started to feel more comfortable with the French language. So I was bold. I had the courage to go ahead and ask, do you have any pots that have drainage holes in the bottoms of them? And the young man that I had asked, he responded no. And it was just no. It wasn't no, but, or no, you can go to this store, or no, you can do this. It was no. And so what I decided to do was to ask, okay, so what do French people do when they want to repot a plant and into a pot that has drainage holes? And he said, oh, well, that's simple. Well, in the front of the store, we have this workshop. And you take the pot that you want up there and you ask them to drill holes in it. And they drill the number of holes you wanted in it and you go about your business. Oh, okay. Well, it would have been nice to have just had him offer that up. But I think that because of the communication style, that is not necessarily something that gets done. So, so that's just an example. Have you experienced this? Living in a different culture where you feel like they're being intentionally vague or confusing? Or have you had an experience where you have been very direct and the person took it the wrong way? Because there's that aspect of it too. You're coming into a culture that's different from yours and a communication style that might be different from yours. And so, okay, so maybe you're aware of that now. Maybe you're looking to read between the lines of what is being said, which is, if you're not from that culture, can be a really, really, really challenging thing to do. But at least you know that, well, maybe what they're saying isn't really meant to be so direct and I need to figure some things out or ask some questions, right? But from the other side, as you are being very explicit, if that's your style, they might take offense to that. They might think that you are talking to them like they are a child, or maybe you're patronizing them, right? And I didn't have this experience, but I think it could have been taken this way. When I first started dating my boyfriend, I would always check in. Does that make sense? Is that logical? Partially because we were speaking in French, right? And so while I feel like I have a good handle of the language, it's still my second language. And so I wanted to be clear on that. But probably mostly because I come from a low context country that says what they mean, they directly. And so I think that as I was doing that, especially in the first few months, I think he could have very well taken offense to it. He didn't. He was okay with it. But when I shared that with him recently, he smiled and laughed. Because maybe he did. Maybe there was something. It's like, why does she keep asking me if I understand? So I think there may be something to that. Now, there is something that's funny with this direct versus indirect communication style when it comes to Americans and French people. And that kind of shifts kind of reverses. It takes the opposite turn when you're not just communicating generally, when you are giving feedback or constructive criticism. So Americans who are typically direct, saying it like it is, all of a sudden, when it comes to give constructive criticism, they kind of sugarcoat it. They don't come right out and say, "Ah, no, that was bad. You didn't do a good job," right? We kind of sugarcoat it. Well, that's one area where the French are direct. And it can feel really harsh to hear it, right? Because it's so direct. There's no sugarcoating, and but it's clear. And I know that some people appreciate that, and other people, especially if you have not, if you're not used to it, it can feel like a slap in the face. Like, oh, ooh, that was harsh. So yeah. What are your thoughts on this? Is this an interesting subject? I'm going to shift gears a little bit and talk about a couple of things. I'm right here at the tax office, so I think I will shift gears to taxes. It's lunchtime, so it's a little quiet here, but April 15th was tax day in the U.S., and I did my U.S. taxes, and I'm using this software for expats, and I signed up for the program where they review my taxes to make sure that I haven't made any mistakes at a high level, and it's still under review because I think they have so many new clients, or so many clients now, that they can't keep up. And have the extension till May 15th as somebody who's filing from out of the country. But I really need to have my taxes filed, my U.S. taxes filed, because now I'm getting mail from the French tax office saying, okay, it's time to start doing your French taxes. I've gotten the stuff in the mail, I've gotten my emails, I'm like, okay, and I need to have filed my U.S. taxes to have those inputs for my French taxes. And I'm ready to kind of, close the book on those and move on, because doing taxes is not my favorite thing. So I wait. I just send an email checking on when can I expect to get my review completed by, because I finished my taxes, I think a week and a half before the U.S. tax deadline. And I'm still waiting to have my taxes reviewed. So that feels a little unfinished. That feels like, I'm ready to get that done. The other thing I wanted to share with you, that as you can see from these beautiful, beautiful plane trees, that spring has sprung. And with that comes the pollen. You guessed it. It seems to be pretty bad this year. I know that I've had to close my windows and I've turned on my air conditioning because for me it is, I don't want to be in my apartment and feel my eyes burning and sneezing. And yesterday, even on my walk, I put a mask on because I'm like, I just don't really feel like not feeling good. But today, because I'm doing this video, I have not put my mask on, and I hope that I am not going to regret it. When I was living in the U.S., I remember summer days being hazy, hot, and humid. In the Philadelphia area, South Jersey area, even in Richmond, when it was really humid, you would see this kind of haze in the air. And today, it's a nice day, nice spring day, not too hot, not humid, but there is something that seems to be hanging in the air. And that is either one of three things. That could be a film of pollen that you see. It could be the Sahara desert sands that blow in here from time to time. Or it could be a combination of both of them. I know my car is a complete mess with all of the pollen that has accumulated on it, and I need to take it to the car wash, but I hesitate because as soon as I do, it's just gonna get covered again. So there's that. Yeah. So this time of the day, as is with around the 7:30 p.m. hour, things are calmer, like in the streets. Okay, this is a Monday too, so some stores aren't open, so there are fewer people. But typically speaking, noon is when people sit down and eat, and eating is taken seriously here. And that's when I typically will go to the grocery store because there are fewer people to deal with. And then around the 7:30 hour, that's the hour right before dinner, and people are preparing that. They're getting, they're getting that all together, and they're not out in the streets. So, bonjour. And so this is kind of a little bit more tranquil right now. In the middle of the morning, 10:30, you might see trucks delivering things. You might see lots of people out and about. I'm heading into the center of town here, so maybe more people, but it still feels to me kind of quiet and peaceful. And I like that. I don't know if you've heard, but I can tend to be a little bit of an introvert. And I think the older I get, the more I feel like I want to go in, and be on my own and write. Like writing is a great way to do that as well. So, I think that is all I want to share with you today. If you enjoyed this video, be sure and give this video a thumbs up, share it with friends, subscribe. Let me know what you think about this idea of high and low text communication styles. If you've experienced it, what experiences you've had, and I will see you again next time. Bye for now.